Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Mrs. Basega, and I'm going to be your physics teacher this year. I'm so sorry, but I am out sick today, and depending on your class, possibly also tomorrow. I should be back on Monday, though. So, welcome to physics class with me. Okay, so what I'm going through right now is something called a follow along slide. I do these for literally every single lesson. So we have an optional textbook for this class. Instead, I largely rely on these follow along slides to help get you through the whole class. Follow along slides are linked, so if you want to go to a specific day, just click on the title and it'll bring you there. So let's go to block A, that is today. Um, Today we're doing a quick intro to class and one lesson on how to graph with Quick Graph 5. Super, super easy. So again, welcome to my class. I'm Mrs. Basega. If you have trouble trying to pronounce my name, it's Ba-Se-Ga. All right, and I used to do this joke where I'm like, do you remember the old video game system, the Sega Genesis? Sega? I'm sorry, you're probably beyond your time, but it used to be Ba-Sega, like the game system. Oh well. So here are our objectives for today. You'll see the objectives for any given class at the beginning of the period. So notice that today we're mostly doing social things like fire drills, lab safety, technology. We're doing very few science skills. All right, so let's get to it and we'll start with the social goals because these are the ones that you must absolutely do to stay safe during class. We don't want you to light my lab on fire, and chances are you won't. When you don't learn lab safety, then you've got to have me on your back trying to get you to do the right thing, and let's just not. So make sure everyone's in a seat for this part. We're going to go over some lab safety things. First off, in the lab, wear closed-toed shoes. On days where there's going to be a specific fall or drop hazard, I will let you know ahead of time and be like, hey kids, you must wear closed shoes this day. Okay, if we're dropping bowling balls, we really want there to be some sort of protection between your little toesies and, the 8 kilograms of mass that's barreling towards your foot. Okay, for food or drink, on paper, there's no food or drink in the lab. If you want to do something like take a sip of water when you step out, that's fine, but I'm not supposed to have food or drink during the lab. Okay, wear safety goggles. This won't be for every lab. In physics, you don't have splash or burn or whatever hazards. It's mostly just physical things that could enter your eyes. So you will hear from me before specific labs being like, hey guys, we're playing with springs. You don't want to get yourself in the eye. Everyone must wear safety goggles. If you already wear glasses, you don't need to wear safety goggles on top of them because your glasses will be able to protect you from anything that could go barreling towards your eyeball, right? So for safety acknowledgements, everyone needs to sign this safety acknowledgement. You can get to it in a few different ways. You could get to this from Classroom. You could get to it from the link in the follow along slides. If you wear contacts, you must also sign this document. And you need to do that as soon as possible, or else I will start getting messages from my superiors reminding me to tell you to sign the form, and let's just not. In fact, if you want to take a moment to do this right now, the fastest way to get there for you is to go into your Google Classroom. Let's say you're in the green class. Go into Classwork. Go into Lab Safety Acknowledgement. Click on one or both of these, both if you wear contacts, and sign off on both. Done. Once you do that, hit turn it in because otherwise I won't be able to see these Google Forms. They go to an administrator. Hit turn it in and I'll give you 10 free points. Everyone loves free points. So if you feel like pausing the video, go do that right now. The lab safety acknowledgement for everyone and the extra one if you wear contact lenses. Now, this year we're going back towards normal school procedures. So you only need to worry about distance and masking if you don't feel well. For instance, when I return to school on Monday or Tuesday or whenever, I'm going to try and keep about a meter from you. And since I know Americans will do anything to avoid the metric system, 1 meter is about 3 feet. Right? I'm going to try and keep about 1 meter away from you at least, and I'll be wearing a face mask when I return because I don't want to get anyone sick. You don't want to be responsible for that. Oh my gosh, guys. And in the winter, when everybody is sick, don't be offended if I offer you a mask. It's just that when I look out of the class and everyone's like coughing and sneezing, gross. Gross. All right, so I'll have masks available because if you don't feel well, you might as well do that to keep everyone safe around you. All right, so keeping the lab clean, especially if you end up getting sticky stuff, sometimes the rubber will become plasticized and it have like stuff on it. If you need to clean your hands, there are sinks for hand washing available in this room. You don't need to leave the lab in order to do so. Sometimes I'll have you wipe stations down, especially if we're doing like the friction lab or a lab where markers or something have gotten on things. I may ask you to wipe things down. When we use goggles, I may ask you to clean them in the sink. Then I will run the goggles through the UV sanitizer, which is actually pretty cool. It uses light to kill the germs. Okay. Now, I don't have special hall passes. We just use the regular blue passes. And this includes when you have a substitute instead of a me. Um, Whenever you leave the room, you have to let me know beforehand. I did have an issue last year where a kid like left and went to a guidance appointment but didn't tell me. And we were literally looking for this kid for like 40 minutes. So when you leave the room, you have to ask me, leave quietly, return quickly, resume working. Don't make a show about it. The bathroom passes are going to be the little blue passes that we'll sign off for you. I normally let one student out at a time. Um, there might be an exception, like let's say I'm giving a test and everyone's finished with 10 minutes to spare and like 4 people need to use the bathroom at the same time. I might write 4 different passes. But in general, during a regular class period, I normally have one person out at a time max, so I can keep an eye on as many people as possible. I'm the adult responsible for you, so I'm going to make sure I can keep track of you all, right? So speaking of keep track of you all, I'm going to bet that at some point in the next 4 days, we're going to have a fire drill. Administration likes to do them at the beginning of the year to get them out of the way while the weather is still good. So here's where we are. We're right at the like middle of a hallway. And when we click the button, see how we would want to leave the staircase nearest the A hallway, walk across the street. This is the Baldwin lot, by the way. So if you're wondering, like, this is the teacher lot in the back, this is the Baldwin lot on the side. Walk across the street, away from the school, and go down to the second to last tree. That's where I'll always be. And if you have a fire drill while I'm not there and you're with the substitute teacher, you and the substitute teacher are going to walk yourselves down there, meet under that last tree, because they're going to have to be able to take roll and be accountable for all of you, right? On a fire drill, when I am there, you're going to stay with me so that once I keep track of you, I know where you are. We've had fire drills that were for actual reasons, like we had an issue with natural gas in the building before, where we were out for hours at a time. And it's a lot easier for me to keep track of you if you just stay under this tree. If you really want to, you can call your friends over to us and they can stand under the cool tree. So that's our social goals for the day. You know how to do lab safety things, and we will do those once I'm in the building with you. You learned our fire drill procedure where we go down to that second to last tree in Baldwin lot. How about we work on technology next? I feel like you guys are probably just fine with this, but here's what you need to do. I've sent out codes to all of you to our classes. If you are in block 2, you are the blue class. If you're in block 3, you're the red class. If you're in block 4, you're my green class. That's just how I keep you apart in my head. And if you're wondering, the little logo mascots are going to stay for the whole year. So if anything comes up in the slides where it's unique to your class, that's how we get to them. So let's say you're the red class and I click on it. This is the join link for your class. Ta-da, your class. You could also go to your Google Classroom app and add the code at the bottom to join our class. Okay, the reason you need to be in Classroom is because this is where all our classwork lives. I actually don't suggest go on stream mode because the stream shows you the things in order that I put them up. But I might put up things like 2 weeks at a time, and then that's hard for you to navigate. So instead, go to Classwork Mode, and I understand that this button on the iPad's on the bottom of your screen instead of the top of my screen, but you'll live. And you'll see each of the units is broken up. Right now, we just have Unit 0, the Intro to Physics unit, and today's follow-along slide can be found here. Oh, that's like what we're already in that document. Okay. The lab safety is here, the homework is here. Anything that's going to have a due date will show up here in addition to being in one additional location. So join Google Classroom, that's cool. Let's join Calendar next. Actually, if you've already joined Classroom, Calendar should already show up as an option for you. So let's do this with me. Open up your Google Calendar app. Not your iPhone app, not your whatever app. Open up your Google Calendar app. When you scroll down on the side, you should be able to see other calendars. So let's see what it looks like on my mode. Yours will obviously look slightly different because iPad versus laptop. So in the calendar app, this is the symbol for it. Open that up. And when you scroll down, you should see an other calendars option. In other calendars, you're going to see Physics 2 blue or Physics 3 red or Physics 4 green. Let's pick red. And now it shows you every single day. Let's say you miss class and you're like, oh, which slide of the follow along slide do I go to? You can be like, oh, August 26th, I missed block C, and now I know what part of the follow along slides to go to. Notice that in the calendar app, let's close out my personal app, you'll see when assignments are due. Notice that homework A, that's the homework you received today. Notice its due date. Notice things like, ooh, I have test dates up here already. So for instance, on September 20th is your Unit 1 test if you're in the red class. If you're in the blue or green class, that should show up on the 21st. You're on different days. You'll be fine. So right now, you should be totally fine with Classroom and Calendar. I've left the instructions in the follow along slides in case you get stuck. Last Google Suite you're going to need is Google Drive. And this is a huge one because guys, I put literally everything you could need in here except the answers to the test. So in Google Drive, this has been shared with you already. So I want you to go to Shared with Me, find the folder that says Physics 548 and then 2022 to 2023. Someone once was like, why does it say physics with all those numbers after it? And I was like, that's our class number. 5480 is the name of our class. And those are the years. So it's not just like random numbers here, guys. So find this folder. And I want you to click Add to Starred because I know that your Google Drive gets overwhelming. Like if I go to Shared with Me, it is just so much stuff. But if I go to Starred, I see only the things that are really important to me. So how to do this? When you go to the folder, the Physics 5480, 2022, 2023, you're going to click on the folder and hit Add to Starred. Just like that. One folder added to Starred, and when I go to Starred, now that shows up right there. Maybe I should remove stars from other years, but that's a me problem, not a you problem. Now, if you're not seeing any of the invites, like you don't see my invite to Classroom or Calendar or Drive in your email, you need to reach out and let me know. I'm doing this based on the class list I received today. That's August 21st, 23rd. Yeah, I'm good. All right. And if the rosters have changed since then I don't know you're in my class and I haven't extended those invites to you. So what you need to do is contact me. Extra picture of me. Contact me at basagak@glastonburyus.org. That's BASIAGAK at glastonburyus.org. And if you want, go into your Google Contacts app right now and add me. That way you don't have to try and figure out how to spell my last name, because believe me, there have been plenty of kids that were like, oh, I emailed you. And then I look at their email address and they sent it to something else that's not my name, right? So contact me if you can't get into Classroom, Drive, and Calendar. Those three are super important. So now we've done all our social goals. We've done our tech goal of Classroom, Drive, and Calendar. Let's do our technology and science skill of the day. And for this, I'm going to rely on old me's previous work to help us out. When you see a video that's embedded into the follow along slides, you can click and play it. If that is too small for you, what you can do is click on this full screen and play it from there. So let's give it up to previous me. She's going to go over how to do graphs and trend lines. She mentions in the video something along the lines of, we've already done a lab, but you and I have not already done a lab because I'm homesick. Let's give it up to her.
Hi everyone, Mrs. Basega here, and today we're going to be working on graphing and trend lines, but especially using Physics Aviary Quick Graph. Today we're going to learn when to use different types of graphs. We're going to learn to make XY scatter plots in Quick Graph 5.0, as well as how to add trend lines onto those. Finally, once you do have a graph, I want to make sure you know how to take it from a graph to an equation. So let's get started. First off, a pie chart. Pie charts should only be used when data represents a portion of a whole. So this is a cool pie chart. It represents the total number of background radiation a person experiences in a year. Each one of those little parts makes up the whole exposure. You get about half of your exposure from just living on the Earth, near the ground. Because the ground naturally has radon, that radon naturally goes into your lungs where it alpha decays and can damage them. Only a tiny amount comes from artificial sources, and within those, most of those are medical. A small portion of that includes both nuclear power and weapons testing. It's a pie chart within a pie chart. How cool. A bar chart is different. In this particular competitive eating records chart, this represents what's called a discrete data set. Guys, there's nothing between French fries and pork. There's no like French fries 0.5. You can't have a fractional thing that's between asparagus and pork ribs. What we mean by discrete is that they stand alone. Finally, the one you're most likely going to use in physics. In physics, because we're a science, we want to find the relationship between two variables. We're generally going to do XY scatter plots. These represent continuous data sets. And the difference between continuous and discrete is that if I have a discrete data set, I can't have a fraction here. But for instance, I could have a fraction of a dollar, or in this case, it's fractions of thousands of dollars. Yeah, Mexico can spend $1,500 per student expenditure. And to me, this chart kind of does make sense because it shows that expenditure per student increases as the GDP per capita increases. And to me, that makes sense because if your country has more money, you spend more of that money at school. So let's talk about Quick Graph. Quick Graph is not a program or an app that you're going to be downloading to your iPad. In fact, feel free to go to Chrome or whatever it is you're using as a browser and type in the Physics Aviary, and you're going to go to Quick Graph 5. You can type everything in here or just search Quick Graph 5 and it will come up as the first choice. One of the reasons we like Quick Graph 5 is because you can put in your titles, under X and Y, your independent and dependent variables. And you can do many data sets at a time. So I'm going to go enter a data set. So let's say you did an experiment. You have a cart, and then you're loading masses on top of it. You start with a low mass, and you slowly increase the mass kilogram by kilogram by kilogram. Your independent variable is mass in kilograms. Notice it's got those headings that we talked about the other day. And you sit there with an accelerometer and measure the acceleration while keeping a constant force. Right? One of the things I like about Quick Graph is that it lets you enter data and it plots that data live. So if you mess up, okay, because that occurs. So let's say you mess up and you accidentally enter 40. You'll really quickly be able to see that you misplotted that point. It doesn't fit in with the rest of your data. Now that I have most of my data entered from our experiment, I'm in data set 1. I'm going to hit curve fit. Ooh, a proportional fit doesn't fit. A linear fit doesn't fit well. Notice that this correlation here is 0.87. That means it's not a really good fit. The better your fit is, the closer this number will be to 1. And here's the problem. If I pick inverse, inverse square root, or exponential, all of those, they kind of look the same. So I'm going to give you a hint here. Until the end of the year, it will not be exponential. We want to make sure you've seen it in math first. So for now, it's not exponential. Don't even try, guys. So between inverse, inverse square root, and inverse squared, we're going to try those. And I see it is a really good fit for an inverse. I can tell it's a really good fit because it doesn't even put the correlation. Right? It doesn't seem to fit the inverse square very well at all. Notice that while the first point is kind of there, the rest are not. An inverse square root doesn't fit any of those points. So let's go back to inverse. The inverse shows an equation of y equals 20 over x. We're going to write this a little differently though. Once I've plotted the trend line and I've got the best fitting trend line, I can change its equation from xy form into a more meaningful form for physics. That is, I see the variable on my y-axis is acceleration, whose symbol is a. So I'm going to replace the y with an a. The 20 isn't a variable, it stays the same. But any x I would replace with the letter m because m is the independent variable. So what we found in this experiment after we graphed our data is an equation that can be written to describe this graph is a equals 20 over m. So before you head out and practice this on your own, let's recap. Today you should have learned when to use a pie chart, a bar chart, versus an XY scatter plot. You should have learned how to make XY scatter plots in Quick Graph 5.0, how to add trend lines to those graphs by hitting the curve fit feature, and once you hit the curve fit feature, how to take that equation and translate that into the physics variables.
So let's reiterate this process one more time. Once you put in your titles, all your data, it automatically plotted everything, and you did your curve fit. Over here on the left-hand side is where that equation is. The equation uses x and y. So this one's equation is y equals 5x. But the model replaces x and y. It should be the same exact thing as the equation, except on the y-axis was current. Current symbol wasn't amps, and it's not C. Current symbol is I, so I'm replacing Y with an I. On the x-axis, it's V for voltage, right? So equation versus model, check. So we've done our social goals, our classroom, drive, quick graph. So that just leaves this bottom. Use Google Docs to edit and submit homework assignments. Today's homework assignment is homework A, graphing practice. So to get to this document, you can either go through Classroom, where it's already posted for you, homework A graphing practice, right? Open it up in Docs and start to edit. Notice that I put a video to help. I also put the link to Quick Graph to help. You could also go through Drive. In Drive, let's see if we can find it. I'm so organized. Graphing practice A. Ta-da! Or by clicking on this picture. I always will post things in multiple formats. So if you'd rather go through Classroom, excellent. You'd rather go through Drive, cool. You're just going to go from the follow along slides every time? That works. For today's homework assignment, open this up, make a copy of yourself. You're going to be using our Quick Graph 5 to make graphs of this data. Write the curve fit equation, model, and highlight the type of graph. Once you're done, upload it to Classroom and hit submit. And you are done with the homework for day 1. Now, don't get it twisted. It's called homework, but you start your homework in class. So you're probably like, oh my gosh, this is homework. I'm done for the day. No, no, no. When I assign a homework, it is your homework for that period. And whatever you don't finish, you take home. So start this right now. Open up homework A. Use Quick Graph 5 to graph the data. And the nice thing about being here in class is you can talk to the other people in class and they can help you out. And I hope you have a great first day at school. That's it for me, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.